I did want to ask, you're in Toronto. Welcome. Glad to hear it. It's been great.
Are you Canadian?
Of course I am.
Are you part of the opposition? Are you?
I don't know how to phrase that.
You got like, yeah.
Well, I did want to ask.
Did you vote for Trudeau?
I'm not going to say.
And let me tell you something right now. If a man says he's not going to say, like, if you ask him, did you vote for Biden? He's like, well, I'm not going to say. That's none of your business. He voted for Biden.
Sean,
hey,
Sean, I'm glad you've had great experiences.
So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. The enemy of Canada.
As the media met with Dricus Du Plessis and Sean Strickland in Toronto ahead of their fight, Strickland did this song and dance.
This is really like also the only way we approach mixed martial arts, and it's not that interesting of a topic to me. It's like, how does Dana White allow this? We know where Dana White's politics reside. He's spoken articulately, honestly, on why he allows this stuff.
The Dan Le Batard show's Mike Ryan Ruiz would fire back.
We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said, if I had a gay son, I would think I'd...
Oh, look, another. I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone says...
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance to interact with a more diverse...
Let me know, are you gay?
Can I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking, this is a part of, are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Here's where it takes an even worse turn, if that's possible.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak man, dude. You're part of the problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like, you're just pathetic. And the fact that you have no backbone, and has he shut down your country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man.
That doesn't answer the question.
Strickland shows how small the man he actually is with this answer.
That's as hateful a clip as I've heard on this show. And I was aware of it, and I saw quotes of it. I wasn't prepared for how I would feel after seeing 2 minutes of it. That guy. Him. He's a stupid mother who is hateful. And the fact that he's not suspended, where he'd be suspended in any other sport, hell, forget sport. In most companies, that would at the very least get you suspended.
True, accurate, spot on, though more from Strickland.
But I did want to ask also things you said about the trans community. You said this past October when they announced the Bud Light sponsorship that you'd go so hard on Bud Light in your next fight, they'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what, and will know what they stand for.
This guy's like, hey, this Canadian's not that Canadian.
Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light. 10 years ago, to be trans was a mental illness. And now all of a sudden, people like you have weaseled your way into the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of you. And the best thing is the world's not buying it. The world's not buying your bullshit you're peddling. The world is not saying, you know what, you're right. Chicks have. The world's not saying that. The world's saying, no, there are two genders. I don't want my kids being taught about, who they could fuck in school. I don't want my kids being taught about, their sexual preference. Like, dude, this guy is the enemy. You want to look at the enemy to our world? It's that mother right there, asking these stupid questions.
This is so much ignorance bottled up into one answer.
It's publicly traded, by the way. So Endeavor and TKO, you should answer for this in ways that he hasn't had to.
Here's where the show gets into an interesting back and forth.
I think it needs to see the light. It needs to, beyond the platform there that he's on, where it's normalized and it's more acceptable because he's speaking to his audience.
And we are a guilty party, Dan, and we are a guilty party in allowing this conflation of hate and politics. That right there is not politics.
But Mike, it can't be
become politics.
No, Mike.
That is pure hatred.
Mike, what Dan is saying, it is hatred. It's disgusting. But what Dan is saying is you can't want politics and sports mixed up, but it only be your politics.
And I'm telling you, it's not politics. Up until like 8 years ago, it wasn't politics. And we've allowed for it to be political. It is not. I know how he votes because we've given license to people to speak like this freely. And when I hear all their political beliefs encapsulated in that, It is not political in nature.
Mike, you say
it is
you say-
hateful.
Lebitard would then offer this to Ruiz.
Furthermore, I would say that a good deal of MMA audience applauds the idea that in their sport, he can speak his mind that way in a way that his audience doesn't necessarily disagree with, hateful or not.
I'm not better because I heard that clip. I'm angry. That has done nothing for me
But
except
Mike,
make me
anger is
angry.
Anger is what leads movement toward change. You have to feel.
No. In fact, Dan, normalizing that kind of behavior and platforming it has brought about a change.
That's not
a change
normal.
where someone can speak like that freely. That's the change that has happened.
There would be more.
He's wearing a T-shirt that says "Women go back in the kitchen." Well, like, what are we doing? Like that's not. Look, we haven't even touched on that. That's hatred of 40 years ago. We kind of got past that, and now we're just rehashing it because there has been a change, and it's the same people that asked for politics to be kept out of sports, and have introduced this vile hatred into it, while being platformed, while being legitimized, as the former president of the United States sits next to Dana White, the head of their company, at big marquee events. It's just, as it's on ESPN. I asked Jimmy Pitaro, what gonads are you going to show me in this instance? Because that pay-per-view is on ESPN+. That is on ESPN+. And I know Disney is an inclusive company. I worked for it. You say nothing?
This is a very, very important angle. More from Ruiz, and then we'll discuss.
I'm glad you made us play that video. Because while the UFC isn't going to do anything about it, I would challenge ESPN to make a public statement on this. Because that kind of hate is going over their airwaves. The Walt Disney Company. What are you, a chicken that you allow this with impunity regularly? But it's never been this vile. The guy's wearing a T-shirt that says "Women belong in the kitchen," a gun in every hand. Disney's a family company. Hell, Disney's a company. Take family out of it. This is revolting. You have that guy's last name on a pay-per-view. At the very least, condemn it.
All right, so as I'm watching this, there's many points to hit on, so just follow me here. The conservative base is always saying that they want to keep politics out of sports at all costs. And yet, the conservative base loves, stands up and applauds, reposts the words of one Dana White who will speak at the RNC not just once, but twice. Dana White will have Ron DeSantis at a UFC event in Florida press conference, and they say nothing. So I think it's a bit hypocritical to say you love seeing Dana White speak out for Donald Trump. And I love seeing Donald Trump so I could chant 4 more years at a UFC event. And I love seeing Tucker Carlson, who could be Donald Trump's VP. And I love seeing Sean Strickland use his platform, but also keep politics out of sports. It just is completely inconsistent, okay? With Dan and Mike Ryan going over the meshing of hate speech, cosplaying as political points. Personally, I'm going to go over this, okay? And this is just how I feel. I am open to the discussion in the comments or on my socials. I'm at a crossroads here. Because saying things, and I'm reading it again, such as what Sean Strickland is saying, it should have a cause and effect that consequences are met. But the problem is Dana White. Dana White, when he is not putting his hands on his wife, gives free rein to his roster to say anything or do anything on whichever marginalized community they like. It is practically open season for them to fire on whoever they wish. The other part is technically the rights of LGBTQIA plus people. That falls in the hands of lawmakers who are put in those positions to pass laws that help out those marginalized communities. And those rights have had to have been fought for by the likes of Harvey Milk, to Audre Lorde, to Sylvia Rivera, to Charlie Craggs. They had to fight politically to get to where we are today. There was immense sacrifice. On the issue of platforming, this is where Cenk and I would disagree. Personally, I think him hosting David Duke is an issue because there are so many falsehoods. Just a lie on top of a lie, on top of deceit, on top of misinformation, on top of a lie that they will intentionally fit into. Ben Shapiro does it all the time. Fit into one sentence or a few sentences where it's almost an overload on how much you need to fact check. Me personally, my approach is, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm now going to go through constant sourcing to debunk what you said incorrectly. And if there's something they did say correctly, then whatever. But what they say needs to have some sort of merit, and then it also needs to be fact-checked. That's why in the past election, through debates, town halls, Daniel Dale's Twitter was on fire because he was fact-checking in real time. That's something that I see as important. For someone to say something so crazy, and then everyone will get on you if you don't stop them immediately, or if you don't fact check them immediately, or her, it doesn't matter. There needs to be that approach, and no one is above reproach as well. Lastly, Strickland is a former neo-Nazi. He has talked about this, yet he still has, if we're being fully transparent, some of those same political leanings in how he goes after certain people. He has been open about his struggles. He has cried on Theo Vaughn's podcast, who at this point is just Dana's guy for feeding UFC fighters for his show. Why can't he keep that same energy towards other people? He talks about coming from a broken home. Okay, I feel terrible for you. I feel awful for your upbringing. I also feel terrible for other people's upbringings because I have that sympathy. Why can't he? Why does he have to go after somebody for being trans? What if, and this happens a lot, what if that trans person wanted to not live because they weren't accepted and they came from a broken home? He's breaking down, he's crying, and he's getting sympathy over it, which he should. But why can't he give that same energy to other people aside from himself? I view this in a lot of ways, and I still view it as selfish. I view it as closed off, closed-minded, reprehensibly selfish. But that's just my 2 cents.